a case that goes back to 1994, and that makes perfect sense. That you can't just look at something that happened last week. You have to go back decades, and you have to go through each step of the process so that you know when your indictment finally comes down, that it really is airtight. And what we saw in that press conference, what we heard, was the outlines of an indictment that is really, really detailed. And what you have are 6 counts here. It's not only the overriding conspiracy with Jeffrey Epstein to bring young girls, some as young as 14, but clearly minors under the age of 18, that Ghislaine Maxwell knew were under the age of 18, to groom them, to seduce them, to entice them, to be available, apparently, according to the indictment, to Jeffrey Epstein, also with participation of Ghislaine Maxwell, and also be available to other men of the rich and powerful class. The indictment is as distasteful as the acts that we have learned about over the last 2 years. And I have to say, this is a mighty day of reckoning indeed, that Ghislaine Maxwell has finally been brought to the courts.
And does the indictment give you a sense of the depth of the evidence prosecutors might have against her?
Yes, and I think it is truly in depth. You know, we had heard a lot about Ghislaine Maxwell really dealing with the allegations of one of the victims, Virginia Giuffre, who has been open, vocal, had filed a civil suit. So we know about her. But it certainly sounds like there are many, many victims who are saying that Ghislaine Maxwell was the person who found them, groomed them, brought them into Jeffrey Epstein's orbit, and arranged their travel. Not only were there acts allegedly committed in the mansion in New York City, there were acts allegedly committed in Florida, at the ranch in New Hampshire. We have heard about the infamous island in the Caribbean, as well as acts in London. The acts in the United States territories and the states themselves are going to be enough should Ghislaine Maxwell decide to go to trial and should she be convicted, that she would do an extraordinary amount of time in prison. But one thing, Tanya, I found so interesting in this press conference was there are counts of perjury. And with the counts of perjury, a question was raised by a member of the press saying, well, does this foreclose cooperation if you've indicted her for perjury? And it was very smart. And in your graphic, you can see in count 5 and count 6 that there are perjury counts. That has to do with her deposition in a civil case back in 2016. So one of the things the acting U.S. attorney...
There are new concerns the country is losing in its effort to contain the coronavirus. For the first time, the nation saw more than 50,000 cases in a single day yesterday. That is the highest daily number since the pandemic began. Most of those cases came from 3 states. California led the way with nearly 10,000 new cases, followed by Texas and Florida. At least 22 states have either paused or rolled back their initial reopening plans. Carter Evans is in hard-hit California with more.
We were able to bend the curve in the state of California. We're going to bend this curve again.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is shutting down indoor service at bars, restaurants, wineries, and movie theaters in 19 of California's 58 counties affected.